All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into the Saints of Time podcast. I'm your host, Tarek Ibrahim, and I'm here with Mujir and Muneeruddin. And we have an incredible episode for you lined up today. And this episode probably is going to be within the realm of Islamic / Muslim history. We are going deep into the controversy. Now, it's not meant to be controversial, but because of the way modern history has interpreted life and people have taken their positions, we're technically in a controversial subject today. And the reason I brought this up, and
we love controversy.
Well, first of all, we love controversy. Absolutely. But one reason why I was sitting down and I was asking a couple of my friends, what's a really good show to watch?
Okay.
And some of them were giving a bunch of Turkish shows. Some of them were giving a bunch of, what is it, K-pop? The Korean dramas. They're like, oh, there's tons of good Korean drama shows.
Yeah.
And then, I kept seeing on NBC, the Arabic streaming app or whatever it's called, Shahid, the Muawiya show.
Oh.
Right? So I'm like, I should just watch that. As a history guy, let's see how well they articulate this, right? And one of my friends said to me, bro, why would you ever waste your time watching that? And I said, I understand where you're coming from, Jafar, but I think I'll make my own historical decision on that. And then other people said it is so far off historically that it's so completely inaccurate you shouldn't watch it at all because it's poorly done, very bad Arabic, has nothing to do with anything. It's basically like a Turkish drama show, tons of romance and nothing to it. But by the time I was done talking to these guys, they already hooked me in to watch it. They already convinced me that I need to watch it because, when everyone basically tells you not to do something, there's no choice but to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I said to myself, well, if this is the case and there's so much controversy around this historical figure, I'm seeing Mujir pretty soon. Let's put this on the show. Let's just go into Muawiya. Let's talk about him. Let's talk about where the controversy is. Let's talk about the drama and let's have a good time with it.
Okay.
You ready?
You want to start?
I'll leave that up to you. Do you want to start as a very high level who he is, or do you want to just go right into why people may not think he's the greatest human being in the world? What angle do you want to go on this?
Let's do this.
Because there's a lot.
I came across a thread, I believe it was on Quora, where somebody was asking the question of Muawiya, was he a usurper or a statesman? Okay. Something like that.
Sure.
I got to
right into it.
That's an interesting way to position it because it understands that he has a human side to him. So we don't have to overly lionize him and say that he was the greatest thing since sliced bread. But is there some nuance to his story where we can acknowledge and appreciate what he actually did? The duality doesn't require extremes. So let's look at it from an Islamic, theological, orthodox perspective. Amir Muawiya is without a doubt one of the most, I would say the most controversial figure in the early post-Ba'atha, post-Prophet ﷺ period of Islam. Not because he is unassailably a horrible human being like Yazid and some other people that can make it to our top 10 villains list, but because Amir Muawiya...
Which is coming up. I think that's important. We do have a top 10 villains coming.
Watch out for it. But because Amir Muawiya has many redeeming qualities that make it very intriguing of a conversation. So what I guess we can do in answering that question, that's probably the best way to frame it. Was he a usurper or was he a statesman? We can go through a pretty nuanced view of Amir Muawiya and a walkthrough to really help understand where the debate even comes from. So if you look at what Amir Muawiya did incredibly well, for background, he was the king of the Umayyads and the founder of that dynasty and the Khalif from 661 until 680. And that dynasty lasted until 750. So it lasted about 89, 90 years. Amir Muawiya, some of the things that he did very well were he really built out the bureaucracy. He really professionalized the apparatus of state. So the Umayyads became a very well-functioning state. After, I would say, 5 to 6, maybe 10 years of extreme turmoil in the Ummah, he brought relative calm and stability. he pioneered the Islamic concept of using navy for warfare when earlier Sahabis and Khalifs wanted nothing to do with that. So he was quite a visionary in so many ways. And overall, he was a very effective king. All that sounds great. Where the controversy comes in is some of the things that people take exception to what he did. Now, one thing we should understand is this is a conversation that none of my Shia brothers or my Salafi imams are going to be very happy with me on, because I'm going right down the middle, and
You're going
I'm not about things, but I'm not. Nobody's going to be happy, and this kind of shows you the dynamite nature of Amir Muawiya. Nobody's happy on this topic. There's never a right answer.
Well, that's what we're going to talk about.
I'll explain how it makes sense to me. Amir Muawiya, if we're going to be real about things, there's a hadith sahih captured within the isnad, within the narrational chain, where he is asking one of the great sahabis, Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas, why he doesn't curse Imam Ali. And Imam Ali, as the story goes, was the Khalif from 656 until 661, rightly guided, a very venerated Sahabi, there and a cousin of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ even went as far as to say, Imam Ali is to me what Aaron was to Moses. So he's elite level Sahabi. Amir Muawiya disagreed with him on different things. You can go back and watch the episode on the Umayyads and Umar bin Abdul Aziz to get more context. We don't have time to get into that here. They had beef, long story short, and Amir Muawiya took up arms against Imam Ali, and they actually fought at the Battle of Siffin in 656, 657. Imam Ali was killed in 661. After that, what this hadith is showing is that Amir Muawiya is asking other Sahabis who are very highly respected, and in the case of Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas, guaranteed heaven. He's actually one of the 10 companions that is given the blessed tidings of Jannah. He's asking him, why don't you curse Imam Ali? To the average Muslim, that seems like a ridiculous question.
Yeah.
Why in the world do you think I am not cursing Imam Ali? The man that the Prophet ﷺ literally said, "Man kuntu mawla, fa'aliyun mawla." If I am the wali, if I am the leader to any of you people, the patron, Ali is their patron as well. There's no shortage of things that the Prophet, peace be upon him, said that would lead you to believe that this man was the greatest of the greats, and he is unassailable. But Amir Muawiya had a different position on that. And in fairness to Amir Muawiya, he didn't have the Kutub as-Sitta. He didn't have the 6 books of hadith compiled as beautifully and authenticated the way we do today. So there is a bit of retrospection here that isn't necessarily fair to Amir Muawiya, but he does have to answer to that entire situation.
Sure.
And what we do know is the Umayyads at some point in time, some people believe that it started after Amir Muawiya. I think this hadith suggests that it started during his reign, or he was at least enabling of that idea. They continue to curse Imam Ali and the Ahl al-Bayt at the Jummah khutbahs until Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, the Great, considered an honorary 5th of the Khulafa al-Rashidun, took the throne from 717 to 720. And he outlawed the practice 50, 60 years later. That is obviously a blemish on Amir Muawiya's record. Amir Muawiya also unfortunately appointed his son, Yazid ibn Muawiya, who is one of the worst people. We owe him nothing. He's not a Sahabi. And many of the early Imam, like Imam Ahmad, made it very clear that it's actually very difficult to reconcile faith and Iman as a Muslim with love for Yazid. There is no love lost for this man among the early civilizational founders of Islam. So I am unequivocal about that. So people hold that against Amir Muawiya too. All the transgressions that occurred at the hands of Yazid and Umayyads going forward, because they were pretty brutal and vicious, especially to the Ahl al-Bayt and a lot of the Muslims, they want to saddle that with Amir Muawiya, fair or not. What I will say in defense of Amir Muawiya is, one, at the end of the day, he was a companion of the Prophet ﷺ, somebody whom the Prophet, peace be upon him, entrusted with the sacred duty of writing down the wahi, of transcribing the Quran. if the Prophet ﷺ had any modicum or iota of doubt as to his character as being a deeply flawed, fasiq, sinful of a human being, there's no way he's entrusting him with the Quran.
Yeah.
And that is a fact beyond reproach, that he was a scribe of the Prophet, peace be upon him, on matters of Quran. So that right there is always going to get me to think that I owe this man something.
Yeah, there's honor
Prophet
here.
trusted him. That's definitely good enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I also want to add a level of nuance to that by saying the Prophet ﷺ himself understood that there was a gradient within his Sahaba Ikram. Not all companions were the same.
Mm.
The great Khalid bin Walid, one of my favorite stories, he was very close with Abdurrahman bin Auf, one of the greatest companions, one of the earliest believers, who is one of the 10 blessed companions guaranteed heaven. And Khalid, at one point, in the audience of the Prophet, peace be upon him, gets into a quarrel with Abdurrahman, who he's very close with. So this is not something to take away and say, oh, Khalid and him had a beef. Not at all. Khalid actually saw Abdurrahman as his mentor in Islam, and they were very close. Well, one day, as we know from Khalid's history, he's not afraid of a battle or a struggle here and there. He says something harsh to Abdurrahman. And Abdurrahman doesn't really say anything. The Prophet ﷺ steps in and he goes, he basically rebukes Khalid bin Walid, and he says, you have no idea who this man is. I believe the words he uses are, do not abuse my companions.
Mm-hmm.
Khalid is actually a companion, but he's saying, don't abuse my companions. Abdurrahman is my companion. For, I believe the words Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam uses, the Arabic is escaping me, but he says, even if you were to give an Uhud mountain of gold, it wouldn't match even a handful of gold that these Sahabis would give, because of them having been with me in the darkest of times and accepting me at the earliest of hours. So even the Prophet ﷺ understood, not every person is Abdurrahman, not every person is Imam Ali, Abu Bakr, or Umar. There's a gradient. So Amir Muawiya is somewhere within that spectrum, but he is absolutely within that class. And the Sahabis are, you could quite strongly argue, theological figures, because even the Quran references the Sahaba of the Prophets. And the Prophet ﷺ spoke very highly of his companions, so they do have a special place in Islamic tradition. So the orthodox position is, we don't have to be overly enthusiastic in extolling the virtues of Amir Muawiya as being infallible, but we still always recognize his sohbah, his companionship, and so therefore we are measured in our harshness in judging him. So it's right down the middle. That's how I look at Amir Muawiya. He's got a lot of things going for him. He's got a lot of things going against him. But if I can add to that, I know I'm talking a lot here. That second point that we made in terms of what's counting against him, that people want to brand him with the sins of his sons, or so to speak, with Yazid and what the Umayyads did after him. That's not Islamic theology at all. You are not branded with the sins of your father. You're not branded with the sins of your children. And unless a consequence is reasonably foreseeable arising out of your decision or your action or your ijtihad, you're not responsible for what happens after you make the decision, as long as you're making it in good faith. What we know from the sources is Amir Muawiya, when he was appointing Yazid, he thought that was the best thing to keep the turbulence from setting back in again. He said, look, we've got a good thing going. There's been a peaceable 19 years. Yazid can keep that going. That's what he honestly believed. And for those people that say that Amir Muawiya started the hereditary monarchy concept, that's actually not true. Imam Hassan, who was the Khalif that gave him the power by agreement to be the Khalif, actually got it from his dad, Imam Ali.
Yeah, that's right.
So the Ahl al-Bayt actually started the concept. And obviously we're not reproaching Ahl al-Bayt here. But what we're saying is, let's extend that logical application to Amir Muawiya. He's not even the one that started that.
Yeah, and if that is the guiding light, if that's the metric that we're going to use to measure, well, his son was bad, therefore the father must be bad.
Yeah.
You know, you could keep taking that exact example all the way up to even, exactly. God forbid, but you could technically blame the Prophet ﷺ. You could actually say it goes all the way.
Our sources where Amir Muawiya is clear to Yazid in his inscriptions. He's saying, Yazid, when I'm gone, make sure you marshal the support of Imam Hussein. Make sure you marshal the support of Abdullah ibn Zubair, Abdullah ibn Umar, but don't force them, which is to say, don't kill them or shed their blood. These are very special people.
Yeah.
Now, Yazid, the idiot, if I can say that, went further and did that. But that's not on Amir Muawiya. He can't control this fool after his
death. Yeah, absolutely.
What's he supposed to do?
The guy's dead.
Yeah. He told him what a dad is supposed to tell their kid. He did the right thing.
Yeah, he did the right thing. He said, these are the rules of society. This is what's going to keep this community together.
Yeah.
Don't break the rules.
Yeah.
Now someone goes...
But what I will say, going to the other side of the debate, when people want to exculpate Yazid, saying, oh, he didn't directly give the order for Karbala, we're unpacking a lot of wounds here. I know that.
Yeah.
I do recommend everyone go back and watch that episode we did about the Umayyads and how they lost the mandate. But Yazid is inexcusable. Yazid, the sources are so clear that even if he didn't give the order, I don't buy that for a second. Nobody would do something in the 7th century without the clear instructions of the king. Certainly not something on the magnitude of killing the grandson of the Prophet ﷺ.
Yeah.
There's no way that somebody's doing that of their own volition. Even then, what was his post-offense conduct? Did he hold those people accountable? Did he institute mourning? Did he issue an apology to the Ahlul Bayt? No. In fact, the annals will show that the Umayyads continued to curse the Ahlul Bayt for the next 30, 40, 50 years. So I'm sorry. I'm not giving them a pass on that.
Yeah.
And we owe him nothing, Yazid.
Yeah, it didn't get better.
By the way, Yazid's son, Muawiya II, wanted nothing to do with Yazid. He abdicated the throne within months of taking it, saying, I want nothing to do with my father's position. And that created a massive issue for the Umayyads, as we recounted in that episode, that almost destroyed the dynasty. And the Sufyanids, being the family of Amir Muawiya and his direct descendants, actually lost the conch because they had to bring in the Marwanids. Marwan ibn Hakam, the really dark wing of the family, took over on that day.
Yeah. And that's a whole other story.
And Abdullah ibn Zubair mounted his counter khilafah, which was the correct khilafah, by the way.
That's your take for sure.
And we talked about that in the earlier episodes.
Absolutely. And I think, just to bring it all holistically, because I think it's important, because people watching the show are all going to be different ages. There's going to be some young kids watching. There's going to be some adults watching. There's going to be people our age watching. We're not adults. We're cool young people. That's how I see ourselves, right? And, when you look at the story, because it's very important. I think this is very important, because even when you look at Yazid, and people want to blame Muawiya, right? That's the idea of the story, right? And then you go to some stories that we can all agree upon, right? Like the story of Prophet Noah, right?
Yeah.
Where he's going and he's profiting,
Great example.
right? And he's going around telling people, believe in one God, be good, be morally upright for 900 years. And he can't even get his kid on board.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? His own son not going on that boat. He's not going on the ark.
Exactly. So is Nabi Nuh now a failure, or is
right,
because it's
or
come along?
Exactly.
Absolutely not.
You know what I mean? And I think these examples, people have to be fair. You know what I mean? Like, I know there's a lot of propaganda and there's a lot of people that want to push certain agendas. And of course, people will always benefit from agendas. There's always somebody benefiting from every story. But I think it's very important that we as humanity come to a collective, that we come and really embrace our history, right? There are dark days in history. There are dark days in real life, but there's always a rainbow at the end. And I think people need to see that in order for humanity to go from A to Z, there's going to be some ups, there's going to be some downs, but remembering that humanity can always be good is very important. And I think Prophet Noah gives that example in a very, very clear way. Sure, humanity died, right? Like, you have to remember, the end of that scenario is the world gets flooded. Right, like, it's very, very dark, but the world got flooded, and yet here we are again, right? And I think that there are lessons in that. There's nuggets for everybody, to be honest.
Yeah. So to bring it full circle to the question,
that's right.
Where are we going on it? He is absolutely a statesman. You can't say that he was a usurper because he legitimately acquired the Khilafah by agreement with the Ahlul Bayt. Imam Hassan gave it to him.
Yeah.
So he got it legitimately. Yazid can't say the same thing. He got it hereditarily, so whatever. He didn't have the legitimacy to rule, and that was a breach of the agreement with Imam Hassan, as we recounted in that episode.
It's a great episode. So if you just stumbled upon this on a clip or you just stumbled upon this on YouTube, go back. There's a part 1 and part 2 that you are dying to watch.
But Amir Muawiya was a Sahabi who did a tremendous job in his 20 years in office as the Khalif. And was he perfect? Absolutely not.
But he's not supposed to.
But that's exactly. But the Sahabi had an entire spectrum. He was a man that was very intelligent, very clever, very forbearing. He knew how to get his hands dirty. He knew
that he had to get his hands dirty.
In statecraft, he was very tactical, very strategic. And he did things that didn't look like the Khulafa al-Rashidun. He was very strategic. He was very clever, very conniving even. But ultimately, we don't question his character and his iman because it was good enough for the Prophet ﷺ. So who am I?
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
We didn't even live at that time.
Exactly.
No, absolutely. So I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. You know, we have tons of episodes coming. We have, if you're on this episode, we have great episodes coming. If you haven't seen our prior episodes, we have some really good stuff previously to this day. So check it out, like, subscribe, comment, and we'll see you next week on the Sands of Time podcast. Thanks so much.